If you are over 60 and drinking beet juice for your circulation, there is a strong chance it is not doing what you hoped it would do. Not because beet juice is weak. It is not weak at all. Beet juice is one of the most interesting foods for blood flow support because it provides dietary nitrate, and nitrate can help your body make nitric oxide, the signaling molecule that helps blood vessels relax. The problem is what happens after 60. Your body may still be taking in the beet juice, but it may not be converting, protecting, and using that signal as efficiently as it once did. That is why some people drink beet juice every day and still complain that their feet stay cold, their legs feel heavy by afternoon, their hands fall asleep on the steering wheel, or their walking distance keeps getting shorter even though they are trying to do something healthy. If any of that sounds familiar, I want you to hear this clearly. That is not always a sign that nothing works. Often it means one helpful habit lacks the support system that lets it work. Today, I am going to walk you through 6 smart additions people over 60 can pair with beet juice if their goal is better circulation support. We are going to count them down from 6 to 1, and the ingredient at number 1 is the one most people throw away without realizing it may be the missing piece. It does not just sit beside beet juice. It helps create the internal conditions that make beet juice more useful in the first place. Before we start the countdown, think about your own symptoms for a moment. Do your feet warm up slowly? Do your calves tighten up sooner than they used to? Do your fingers go pale or numb in cold weather? Keep those in mind as we go, because each ingredient on this list supports circulation through a slightly different pathway, and that difference matters. Ingredient number 6 is lemon juice. This one sounds simple, almost too simple, which is exactly why so many people skip over it. But the reason lemon belongs here is not because it tastes refreshing. It is because beet juice depends on chemistry, and chemistry depends on environment. And I want to slow down on that word, environment, because it explains why healthy habits sometimes disappoint people in their 60s and 70s. We often imagine nutrition like a switch. You drink the good thing turns on the good result, and that is the end of the story. But biology is rarely that clean. Biology is more like a room full of dimmer switches. The signal has to be created, protected, received, and translated. If any one of those steps is weaker, the final result feels smaller than expected. That is why one person drinks beet juice and says, "Wow, I felt warmer hands and easier walking." Another person drinks the same amount for 2 weeks and says, "I do not get it. Nothing changed." The difference may not be motivation. It may not even be the beets. It may be the internal environment those beets are entering. Dietary nitrate from beets has to move through a conversion process before it can contribute to nitric oxide signaling. Part of that process begins in the mouth, and part of it continues in the stomach and circulation. Researchers have looked at how vitamin C and nitrate may work together, especially in older adults, because aging is often associated with lower nitric oxide availability and poorer endothelial function. In older participants, combining nitrate with vitamin C has been linked with improved vascular measures compared with nitrate alone. That matters because many adults over 60 are not dealing with one single issue. They are dealing with a whole chain of smaller inefficiencies. The signal is weaker. The blood vessel lining is less responsive. Oxidative stress is higher. The response that used to happen easily now needs more support. Fresh lemon juice helps in 2 ways. First, it provides acidity, which many people find makes beet juice easier to digest and easier to take consistently. Second, it provides vitamin C, and vitamin C helps protect nitric oxide-related pathways from oxidative damage. In plain English, lemon does not magically replace beet juice. It helps defend the benefit beet juice is trying to create. Squeeze half to 1 fresh lemon into your beet juice right before drinking it. Do not use sugary bottled lemonade. Do not use a heavily sweetened citrus drink and pretend it is the same thing. You want the real juice, fresh and simple. Ingredient number 5 is raw garlic. Now this one is not for everyone, because the taste is strong, the smell is strong, and if you add too much, you will absolutely know it. but garlic has been studied for its potential support of vascular function, blood pressure, and endothelial health, and that is why it deserves a place on this list. There is also a psychological reason I like to include it in a conversation like this. Garlic reminds people that circulation support is not always hidden in an expensive bottle. Sometimes the most useful tools are the ones that have been sitting in ordinary kitchens for decades while everyone was looking for something fancier. When fresh garlic is crushed, it forms sulfur compounds that have been associated with vascular benefits. These compounds appear to support nitric oxide signaling, improve endothelial responsiveness, and may also support healthy blood pressure in some people. That is important because nitric oxide does not work in isolation. It works inside a living blood vessel, and the health of that vessel wall changes the outcome. This is where people over 60 often lose ground without realizing it. They focus only on getting more of one thing into the body: more beet juice, more supplements, more effort. But if the vessel lining itself is stressed, stiff, or inflamed, then stronger input does not always create stronger output. Garlic matters because it may help the body respond better, not just consume more. The simplest way to use it is one small clove, crushed and allowed to sit for several minutes before adding it to your drink or taking it alongside your drink. Letting it rest gives those active compounds time to form. If the taste is too much, some people prefer to swallow the crushed garlic with water and drink the beet juice separately. That still counts. The goal is not culinary perfection. The goal is circulatory support. Ingredient number 4 is unsweetened cocoa or raw cacao powder. This is where the list starts to get very interesting, because cocoa works through a different but complementary mechanism. Cocoa flavonols have been studied for their ability to support endothelial function, and endothelial function is everything when we talk about circulation. The endothelium is the delicate inner lining of your blood vessels. When it is functioning well, vessels can relax, adapt, and respond. When it is not functioning well, circulation becomes less flexible, less efficient, and less forgiving. And that word forgiving is the right one. Younger bodies can sometimes get away with more. More sitting, more stress, more sugar, more inconsistency, more long gaps without movement. An older vascular system is often less forgiving. It gives clearer feedback. Heavy legs, slow recovery, cold extremities, reduced stamina. That does not mean the body is beyond help. It means the body is asking for more intelligent support. That is why two people can drink the same amount of beet juice and get very different results. One person has a more responsive vascular lining, the other does not. Same input, different output. Cocoa flavonols have repeatedly been associated with improved flow-mediated dilation, which is one of the most common measures of endothelial responsiveness. In older adults, those effects may be especially relevant because endothelial function tends to decline with age. So if beet juice is helping provide nitrate, cocoa may help the blood vessels themselves stay more responsive to the signal. Think of beet juice as helping send the message, and cocoa as helping the blood vessels hear the message more clearly. 1 tablespoon of unsweetened cocoa or raw cacao powder is usually enough for a strong start. Not chocolate syrup, not hot cocoa mix, not a sugary dessert powder. You want the bitter, real thing. If you need to balance the taste, add cinnamon or a few ice cubes, but keep the sugar low. The whole point is to support blood flow, not drown the drink in something that works against your metabolic health. Pause here for a second, because the first 3 additions all point to the same lesson. Beet juice can be helpful, but its effect depends on the condition of the system receiving it. Lemon helps protect the pathway, garlic supports vascular responsiveness, cocoa supports endothelial function. None of them replace the beet juice. They help it perform better. And now we move into the top 3, because these next ingredients support circulation from angles. Beet juice does not fully cover on its own. If you are finding this useful so far, make a note of which ingredients surprised you the most. A lot of people assume circulation support means one miracle drink or one magic pill. It rarely works that way. Better blood flow usually comes from stacking small advantages that work together. Ingredient number 3 is fresh ginger. Ginger is often talked about as a digestion ingredient, and yes, it can help there. But for circulation, what makes ginger interesting is its relationship to blood flow dynamics, vascular comfort, and platelet activity. Some research suggests ginger may influence platelet aggregation, although the evidence is not perfectly uniform across all studies, and that is exactly why I want to describe it carefully. Ginger is not a blood thinner medication, and no one should treat it like one. But it may support smoother circulation in a way that matters for older adults, especially those who describe themselves as feeling sluggish, cold, or heavy in the arms and legs. I also like ginger here because it makes the drink feel active. That may sound like a small thing, but behavior matters. People stay consistent with routines that feel alive and noticeable. Lemon brightens the drink. Ginger gives it heat. Cocoa gives it depth. Those sensory cues make the habit easier to remember and easier to repeat, and consistency is where most nutrition strategies either succeed or fail. Here is a useful way to picture it. Circulation is not only about whether a vessel can widen, it is also about what the blood is like as it moves through that vessel, and how easily it reaches smaller peripheral tissues. Beet juice mainly helps with signaling for dilation. Ginger may help the movement side feel easier and more comfortable. Many older adults notice their circulation problems first at the edges, fingers, toes, lower legs. The body can still get blood to the major organs, but the periphery feels underserved. That is why cold hands and cold feet matter. They are often the early conversation starters. Fresh ginger gives you more of the pungent compounds people are usually looking for than powdered ginger does, which is why I prefer the fresh root in a drink like this. A 1-inch piece, grated or blended in, is enough for most people. If you are sensitive to spice, start smaller. You should feel like the drink has some life to it, not like it is trying to win a contest. And here is a practical trick. If you are using ginger for circulation support, drink your beet blend before a short walk. Even 10 or 15 minutes matters. The movement and the drink together make more sense than either one alone, because the body responds to both the chemical signal and the physical demand. Ingredient number 2 is L-citrulline. You may have expected L-arginine here, and L-arginine does have a role in nitric oxide biology, but many people over 60 tolerate and maintain citrulline better because citrulline is converted into arginine in the body and may raise arginine levels more reliably over time. That is why I am putting citrulline in this slot instead. This is the point in the countdown where the strategy stops looking like random wellness advice and starts looking like a system. Number 6. Protected the pathway. Number 5. Supported vascular responsiveness. Number 4. Supported the endothelium. Number 3. Supported the feeling of flow and movement. Number 2. Helps support substrate availability for nitric oxide production from another angle. Each step is covering a weakness the previous step did not fully cover. This is a big deal, because once you start supporting the nitrate pathway with beet juice, there is value in also supporting the arginine nitric oxide pathway. They are not identical pathways. They overlap in effect, and that overlap is where things can get interesting. Beet juice helps one route to nitric oxide. Citrulline helps supply the body for another route. So if you imagine your circulation support plan as a bridge, beet juice strengthens one side and citrulline helps reinforce the other. Why does that matter after 60? Because aging is often associated with lower nitric oxide production, reduced endothelial efficiency, and less reliable blood vessel responsiveness. In younger years, the body can sometimes compensate. In older years, compensation gets weaker. You have to be more intentional. Citrulline also tends to be easier on the stomach for some people than straight arginine. A common range people use is around 3 to 6 grams, depending on the product and the person, but anyone using it should check how it fits with their health situation, especially if they are on medication for blood pressure, nitrates, or conditions that already affect vascular tone. What I like about citrulline in this context is that it is not trying to outshine beet juice. It is filling in a missing lane. It is giving the body another way to support nitric oxide availability instead of betting everything on one single route. And now we come to number 1. The addition most people never think about, even when it is sitting right on top of the beets they bought. Ingredient number 1 is beet greens. Not a capsule with a flashy label. Not a mystery blend with 10 ingredients you cannot pronounce. The leafy tops of the beet itself. And if you are the kind of person who likes that reveal, you already understand why this structure works. The thing most people overlook is often the thing people remember. Not because it is mystical, but because it changes behavior immediately. The next time someone buys fresh beets, they will see the greens differently. That is a powerful shift. It turns information into action. In the exact moment action becomes possible. This is the part people trim off, throw away, and never think about again. But if your goal is better blood flow support after 60, beet greens may be one of the smartest things to keep. Here is why. Beet greens bring a completely different nutritional profile than the root alone. They provide natural sources of potassium, magnesium, folate, and antioxidant compounds that help support vascular health. They also contain nitrate, just like the root, and leafy greens in general are among the most studied nitrate-rich vegetables for blood vessel support. But the deeper reason beet greens matter is not just that they add more of something, it is that they make the drink more complete. The root gives you the famous reputation, the greens give you the broader support system, and older adults often need broader support, not narrower support. By the time someone is over 60 and noticing circulation changes, the issue is rarely one single missing button. It is usually a network issue. The vessel lining is less responsive. Recovery is slower. Activity is lower. Oxidative stress is higher. Nutrient intake is less consistent. The answer is not always more of one isolated compound. Sometimes the answer is using the whole plant more intelligently. Beet greens help move you in that direction. They also fit the title of this video perfectly, because if someone asked me, after 60, what should I add to beet juice for better blood flow naturally, this is the first answer I would want them to hear. Keep the greens. Blend them in. Stop throwing away part of the solution. If your beets come with fresh tops, wash the greens well and blend in a small handful to start. You do not need to turn your drink into lawn clippings. A manageable amount is enough. If the taste is too earthy, combine it with lemon and ginger and it becomes much easier to handle. Now let's pull the whole picture together, because this is where the strategy becomes clear. Beet juice gives you nitrate support. Lemon helps protect and support that pathway. Garlic supports vascular responsiveness. Cocoa supports endothelial function. Ginger supports flow comfort and movement. Citrulline supports another nitric oxide route. And beet greens make the whole thing more complete while adding their own vascular nutrition value. That is what people miss when they expect one food to do everything alone. They drink a glass of beet juice and wait for a miracle. Then when the miracle does not show up, they assume the idea was wrong. Often the idea was not wrong. It was incomplete. And there is one more point I want to make, especially for anyone over 60 who has quietly accepted worsening circulation as just part of getting older. A lot of people do not talk about this openly, but circulation symptoms can shrink a life long before they create a dramatic diagnosis. You stop taking the long route through the store. You choose the closer parking spot every time. You stop going out in colder weather. You sit more because standing feels heavy. You turn down activities that used to feel easy. None of those changes sound huge by themselves. Together, they can quietly narrow the boundaries of a person's world. That is why seemingly small supports matter. Better blood flow is not only about numbers on a chart. It is about what those numbers allow you to keep doing, walking farther, standing longer, feeling steadier, recovering faster, trusting your body a little more. And if you want one practical routine, here is a very simple template. Use plain beet juice or blend cooked beetroot with water. Add a squeeze of fresh lemon. Add a small amount of fresh ginger. Blend in a few beet greens if you have them. If you tolerate cocoa, add a spoonful of unsweetened cocoa. If garlic works for you, use a small crushed clove separately or in the drink. If citrulline is appropriate for you, use the product label and professional guidance that fits your situation. Drink it consistently, not randomly, and pair it with movement. That is how you give the routine a fair chance to show you something. Consistency deserves emphasis here, because viral health content often makes people think the results should be dramatic and immediate. Sometimes you feel something quickly, especially with exercise timing, but often what changes first is not dramatic. Maybe your feet feel warmer at night. Maybe the first few minutes of walking feel easier. Maybe your calves do not tighten as soon. Those subtle wins matter. They are often the beginning, not the end. One more thing before we finish. If you have heard big promises around circulation online, be careful with extremes. No drink can replace medical care for severe artery disease, uncontrolled diabetes, heart failure, or an emergency loss of circulation. A smarter beet juice routine is support, not rescue. It belongs inside a bigger picture that includes walking, strength work, blood pressure control, sleep, and the guidance of someone who knows your medical history. That said, support still matters. Support is what helps many people move from passive frustration to active improvement. So if your title is After 60, add this to beet juice for better blood flow naturally, here is the honest answer behind the headline. Add the missing pieces that help beet juice work like it is supposed to work. Add lemon for support. Add ginger for movement and feel. Add cocoa for the vessel lining. Consider garlic. Consider citrulline if it fits you. But above all, add back the beet greens, because that is the part most people remove before the glass is even made. That one change alone makes the message memorable, practical, and instantly usable. Yes, aging changes the system. Nitric oxide availability tends to decline. Endothelial function often gets worse. Activity patterns change. Muscle mass changes. Stiffness increases. But that does not mean support is pointless. It means support has to be strategic. That is the heart of this entire script. Not hype, not fantasy, strategy. Use a strong foundation, then add the missing pieces that help the foundation work. If you want the simplest version of this, here it is. Start with beet juice. Add fresh lemon. Consider fresh ginger. If you tolerate it, use a little crushed garlic. If you want a richer blend, add unsweetened cocoa. If appropriate for you, explore citrulline. And if your beets came with greens, stop discarding them. That is not complicated, but it is smarter than drinking beet juice by itself and hoping for the best. One more important note. If you are taking blood thinners, blood pressure medication, nitrate medication, medication for erectile dysfunction, or if you have kidney disease, a clotting disorder, stomach ulcers, or any condition that changes what you can safely take, do not turn this into a self-experiment without checking first. Natural does not automatically mean risk-free, especially when circulation and blood pressure are involved. But for the right person, used thoughtfully, this kind of stacked approach makes a lot more sense than waiting for symptoms to keep getting worse. So tomorrow morning, if you are standing in your kitchen with a glass of beet juice in your hand, ask yourself one question: am I drinking this in the most effective way I reasonably can? Because after 60, better circulation support is often not about finding a miracle ingredient no one has heard of. It is about using a good ingredient more intelligently. And sometimes the thing that changes the whole result is the part you almost threw away. If this script gave you a new way to think about beet juice and blood flow, remember the takeaway in one line. After 60, do not just drink the beet. Build the system around it. That is how you give a simple habit a better chance to work. That is how you support blood flow naturally with more intention. And that is how a small change in one glass can become a bigger change in how you feel when you walk, stand, move, and live every day.